This is Andrew Croft, and I'm going to be taking a look at continuous deployment today. There are many different methods that utilize a lot of different tools for deployment. I've chosen to take a look at continuous deployment and some related tools. I've noticed that a lot of companies use maybe a few different tools to get their continuous deployment working, but there's typically one that they really rely on to get the functionality that they need for continuous deployment. So first I'll take a look at how continuous deployment works. The main idea is releasing usable code rapidly. Programmers working with a continuous delivery system often each push at least one integration per day, sometimes more and sometimes a lot more. This requires very frequent testing and often implements an intense automated testing system. Oftentimes there's a team of people that work on testing, creating automated tests, etc. to make sure that the code is all working properly. Believe it or not, this actually causes a low frequency of errors because of the frequent testing and the small integrations. There are often less errors per integration and overall creating less errors in the overall system. This type of deployment can also help keep software cohesive. It helps keep programmers constantly be evolving with the project, so as other programmers push new features, they see it and they get a chance to evolve with it rather than spending months at a time pushing one big package. They might just, do small little pieces here and there, and allows the programmers to evolve with that. And it also gives quicker feedback from users. So again, instead of maybe spending 6 months pushing out one big package for a program, you're pushing stuff out constantly, which allows you to receive feedback from users and again evolve the software based on what the users think of what's going on. So who uses it? There's a bunch of different people that use this. This type of deployment process has gained a lot of popularity recently, and just to name a few of companies who use it, there's one called ThoughtWorks, IMVU, Wix, Quora, and eBay all use continuous deployment. There are a lot more. These are just a couple that I've found. I'm going to be taking a look a little bit more closely at the first three. So ThoughtWorks literally wrote the book Continuous Delivery. They use this system for their own projects, and they also have created projects to help make this even better. So they created and they use a tool called Go. Essentially, a programmer will create their source code. They'll test their build locally. Once they accept their build, and along with the other programmers who are creating other source code, they will then move to push that to a package. And once the different pieces of a package are complete, they will integrate it and test it. So they will push that over to an integration phase, and then they use automated testing from there to actually test it. They actually have a whole bunch of machines that are set up to test each piece of or each package as it's pushed to integration, and they also have a team of people that will actually work on some manual testing. Once they're satisfied with their testing, they'll push this on to staging, where they'll continue testing and making sure everything's working exactly as they think, and then from there they'll push that to production. IMVU has a very complicated and extensive continuous deployment system. They use a continuous integration server for testing and delivery. It's called BuildBot. IMVU will do 50 plus releases per day. They really have a huge focus on testing, so they've set up a very extensive and complicated testing system. They have automated testing that uses up to, I think, 40 or 50 different machines that once they push this to a production server, or rather a testing server, they will then use some automated tests that do tens of hundreds of thousands of automated tests to make sure the code's working correctly. And they also have an entire team of quality assurance engineers that are in charge of running the automated and manual tests. So as they go, their quality assurance engineers are constantly testing every single thing that gets pushed. So even though that they're pushing a lot to to production servers and to live servers. They are testing it every step of the way. Once the engineers are satisfied, the features then push to a live environment. Once their quality assurance engineers push it to a live environment, they actually set aside a team of quality assurance engineers along with a few programmers that are only looking for feedback. So once it's on a live environment, they basically sit back and wait for feedback, and they dig and search, and they have an entire system set up for how to get user feedback. And then once they get user feedback, they then will correct those and start the process all over again. Wix is another company that uses this system of continuous deployment. They actually have 2 to 3 releases per day, so not quite as much as the other two, but they do use the same type of system. And Wix just goes to show that you don't need a huge company with a ton of pushes per day to have a continuous deployment system working for you. A couple of other ones I looked at actually might only push once or twice a week. It depends on the company, but it works for small companies, large companies, and kind of everything in between. I would consider Wix something a little more in between. So they got their 2 to 3 releases per day per programmer. They rely on small and frequent releases with thorough testing. They also are huge into getting customer feedback, so they're pushing 2 or 3 times a day, and each time they're pushing, they're letting their customer know that they made that and trying to get feedback on that. And again, they have a huge emphasis on testing, making sure that every single little piece is working perfectly as they push it out. And they've got a few stages for their release. They start off by developing and testing locally. Once they're satisfied with the way that things are looking locally, they push this to a development server. They really work on the development server to make sure each little piece is working correctly. Once all the little pieces are working independently, they push this to a release server. The release server takes all the pieces, puts them together, they test it again. Again, they're using automated testing and manual testing to make sure everything's working as they expect it to. Once the release looks good, they'll push it to a staging server, and again, they'll restart the set of testing, automated tests, manual tests, and when everything is good to go from there, they'll push to production. They use a lot of different tools, but overall, they use a thing called Maven to track their projects, build, and help manage the production of their projects. Here's a list of my resources that I used. I will post a PDF with all of these as well. Again, this was continuous deployment, and these were a few different companies that utilize that.